Railroad Diesel Exposure Lawsuit. Health effects of diesel exposure. For decades, railroad workers have been exposed daily to diesel exhaust from trains, trucks, and maintenance equipment. Diesel fumes contain toxic gases and particles that can cause COPD, lung cancer, and other serious illnesses. The World Health Organization classifies diesel exhaust as a known human carcinogen. Even as evidence grew, many companies failed to protect workers. In shops, rail yards, and on trains, employees often spent entire shifts breathing in diesel fumes with little ventilation. Under FELA, workers can file lawsuits to hold railroad employers accountable when negligence or safety failures contributed to their illness. These claims also cover situations where diesel exposure combined with other industrial toxins to increase the harm. Gianaris Trial Lawyers help victims of diesel exposure file FELA claims and fight for justice against powerful railroad companies. If you or a loved one worked in the railroad industry and were later diagnosed with lung cancer, COPD, or another condition linked to diesel exposure, you may be eligible to file a lawsuit under the Federal Employers' Liability Act. Contact Gianaris Trial Lawyers today for a free consultation to find out if you qualify for a diesel exhaust exposure lawsuit. How are railroad workers exposed to diesel exhaust? Railroad employees often face heavy diesel exhaust exposure in shops, rail yards, and locomotives. Studies show these unfiltered emissions regularly exceed safe air levels, creating long-term risks for lung cancer and respiratory disease. A major NIOSH-endorsed study linked railroad diesel exposure directly to higher lung cancer mortality. Animal studies back this up, showing diesel exhaust causes lung tumors and damage in rats. Agencies like OSHA and NIOSH stress that no level of diesel particulate exposure is safe, making strict workplace protections essential. Diesel exposure occurs through particular routes related to railroad operations, breathing exhaust inside or near diesel-powered locomotives, especially in poorly ventilated cabs or tunnels, working in engine repair shops or maintenance garages with idling or running diesel engines, shunting activities and switching involving frequent starts and stops of diesel-powered yard engines, exposure during cleaning or degreasing locomotive components with diesel-contaminated aerosol fumes, being stationed trackside or in yards where diesel air pollution accumulates during uncoupling or refueling, performing inspections or maintenance near exhaust vents, tunnels, or confined diesel areas, frequent contact with diesel fuel residues, including condensates, soot deposits, and leaked fluids, interaction with other dangerous substances, including benzene exposure, asbestos, welding fumes, and crude oil, all of which may intensify diesel toxicity. Railroad workers who have experienced long-term exposure to diesel exhaust fumes, especially when combined with other toxic chemicals, are at a documented excess risk of lung cancer deaths, COPD, and other respiratory illnesses. Railroad jobs, specifically at increased risk of diesel exhaust exposure. Railroad workers in many roles have faced chronic diesel exposure, especially in enclosed or poorly ventilated areas. Over time, this has led to thousands of cases of cancer, respiratory disease, and other serious illnesses. Jobs closest to running engines or diesel-powered equipment carried the highest risks. Yet many companies failed to provide proper ventilation, respirators, or filters, leaving workers unprotected. These preventable exposures may qualify affected workers for compensation under FELA, particularly if illness developed after years of working near diesel engines. Job roles with the highest risk of diesel exhaust exposure include locomotive engineers operating long-haul and yard diesel engines, conductors working within cabs and diesel-heavy switch yards, rail yard workers and switchmen handling cars near idling locomotives, track laborers performing maintenance near active rail lines, maintenance of way workers operating diesel-powered machinery, machinists, sheet metal workers, and shop workers servicing locomotive parts manufactured with diesel-powered tools, carmen and repairmen inspecting and repairing diesel engine components, signal maintainers exposed during infrastructure upgrades near working trains, electricians and welders working in enclosed shops where fumes accumulate. These workers often faced repeated exposure over years or decades, frequently without warnings or protection, putting them at significant risk of disease tied directly to their railroad duties. Health risks linked to diesel exhaust exposure. Diesel exhaust is a proven health hazard in the railroad industry, with studies showing a clear increase in lung cancer risk. Agencies like IARC and NTP classify diesel particulate matter as a carcinogen, and NIOSH warns there is no safe level of exposure. Beyond cancer, long-term inhalation contributes to chronic respiratory and heart disease, immune issues, and neurological problems. Acute symptoms like nausea and breathing difficulties are also common. Animal studies confirm what's seen in workers. Diesel fumes cause lung tumors and serious health damage, driven by toxins like benzene, PAHs, and nitrogen oxides. Health problems linked to diesel exhaust exposure include lung cancer, primary risk, confirmed by multiple cohort studies, including railroad workers; bladder cancer, some evidence linking diesel particulates to increased risk; chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD, chronic bronchitis and emphysema, respiratory irritation and reduced lung function; cardiovascular disease, including heart attacks and pulmonary hypertension; neurological effects such as cognitive decline and increased susceptibility to infections; other cancers possibly elevated, kidney, laryngeal, and colon cancers in some studies. Is diesel exhaust exposure still a concern for today's railroad workers? Diesel exhaust remains a major concern for today's railroad workers. Many locomotives still run on diesel engines, and servicing them in confined or poorly ventilated areas means workers continue to inhale harmful fumes. Long-term exposure is linked to lung cancer, COPD, and other serious illnesses. While the EPA and OSHA have set safety standards, enforcement is inconsistent, and not all railroads provide proper protection. That means even modern railroad workers may still face dangerous levels of diesel exposure. Do you qualify for a railroad cancer lawsuit? To qualify for a railroad cancer lawsuit, you must show a link between your cancer diagnosis and toxic exposures from railroad work. Many employees face daily contact with diesel fumes, as well as other dangerous substances such as asbestos, silica, and solvents, often without proper protection. If your employer's negligence contributed to your exposure, you may be able to file a claim under FELA. This law requires proof of negligence but allows workers to pursue meaningful compensation. Eligibility often depends on your job role, how long and intensely you were exposed, and your medical history. Possible compensation in a railroad diesel exposure lawsuit. Damages in a railroad cancer lawsuit may include past and future medical expenses, surgeries, chemo, hospital stays, lost wages and future loss of earning potential, pain and suffering caused by the illness and treatment, mental anguish and emotional distress, loss of enjoyment of life, permanent disability or physical impairment, costs of caregivers or home modifications, funeral and burial expenses in wrongful death cases, loss of companionship or consortium for surviving family members, other economic and non-economic damages. To learn about the total compensation you may qualify for, contact an experienced railroad cancer attorney at Gianaris Trial Lawyers. Gianaris Trial Lawyers, investigating railroad diesel exhaust exposure cases. If you or someone you love developed cancer or another serious illness after years of working around diesel-powered locomotives, Gianaris Trial Lawyers is prepared to help. Our firm understands the devastating impact of long-term diesel exhaust exposure and has the experience to investigate your workplace exposures, build a strong FELA case, and hold railroad companies accountable. Whether you're suffering from lung cancer, COPD, or another condition linked to diesel fumes, we're committed to fighting for your right to fair compensation and justice. Contact Gianaris Trial Lawyers today to discuss your potential railroad diesel exposure lawsuit. Our team is here to listen, investigate, and aggressively pursue the outcome you and your family deserve. Learn more at lawforpeople.com.